Hello, I'm Plague of Gripes, and if you're finding this video on its own without context, this is going to be very confusing for you. The gist of things is that I like to take characters from video games or cartoons and make them have horrifying fusion babies with one another. I then take the resulting atrocities and merge them together into a creature that can know only pain. This video will be the grand finale of my affront unto the Lord. My crime against humanity today will be a final fusion of Bayonetta, Samus Aran, and the boss. Or to be more precise, this video will be a combination of my three prior combinations, which are Aranetta, Bossonetta, and the Baron. I'm going to hold off on naming this final character until the end of the video, because even I'm not entirely sure what desecration against the primal laws of God I'm going to end up getting. But let's get started anyways. The laws of nature won't violate themselves, after all. Alright. This is going to be a little bit different from the ones that I've done before. On the prior ones, I would pick basically a segment of the drawing and commentate over it, or just do the whole thing and then commentate over the whole thing. On this one, I'm going to do little bitty pieces. I'm first going to commentate over the primary section, then fast forward a little bit, probably still talking, but whatever. And then maybe do probably some of the line work, and then some of the color, I guess. That's probably how I'll end up doing it. But let's get started. Here we have our color wheel. This is to give you an idea of how exactly everything is going to be combined. We started, of course, with our original characters. We started with Samus here. And we started with Bayonetta. Blah, blah, blah. Wow, what the fuck's wrong with my... oh well. And, of course, the boss. Or if you've been following along, the balls. Alright, and let's see, we have Aranetta here, and we have the Baron, and we have, what was this? Oh, this is Bossonetta. This is Bossonetta, and this is Aranetta. Okay. Alright, now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to take, by the way, I'm working in 5000 by 5000, so that might get some video stuttering this time. Oh yeah, that feels really good. This is another good reason I really need a new PC. But it's going to be $2,000 away, so I'll just have to wait. But we take our fusion characters, and what we are going to do here, try to make sure that they're all the same size. I kind of imagine that Aranetta here is the shortest of the bunch. She's the cutie. Okay, but this is going to be a lot more complicated than the prior ones, because we're going to have to fuse together 3 different elements. Now, since these are combinations, they're probably going to be sort of similar anyways. So, it shouldn't be that much of a problem, he said with some degree of hesitation. Someone asked before, but I use blue for drafting on primaries because it fades into white pretty easily, which makes it easier to fade down in opacity. Sometimes you can use orange and stuff like that. Especially if you're working PC, so it doesn't really matter anyways. Blue is more of a drafting pencil sort of thing you do in traditional work. Alright. Let's get started. This is going to take a while. Alright, first things first, let's just try to get some basic framework down. I'm not going to pick a pose this time. What I'm actually going to do is we're going to start with a really base, because I'm going to pick out my details first, and then after that I will pick a pose and then draw from the source that I have created. We are going to start with the body first. It's not too important. I may just end up keeping this halved. I don't need to mirror this since I'm just working in details anyways. This is just, I'm not going to use this in any aspect in the final drawing. This is just to give me an idea of what to work around. Haha, baby, haha, boobs. Okay, let's see. We have that. Let's fade that down some. And we're going to be working over this. Let's tighten that up some, actually. Okay. Alright. Now, we're going to go back over this. We're going to have to make some very big decisions early. Let's see. 1, we have on this one, no helmet, nothing, no glasses, just the hair. This one, we have glasses and hair. And on this one, we have a full helmet with visor. For that reason, in our combination, it's not going to be a full helmet. It's probably going to need something to do with glasses, and this one isn't really contributing anything except for the face and as far as details go. So what I thought about doing is, actually, let me work in a different color so I can see what the hell I'm doing. What I thought about doing is looking for a compromise. Oh god, the memory on this thing. You can see I'm already using 60% just in this program alone. Let's start out with a basic idea. It doesn't really matter, just nose. Basic face. None of the face is always exposed on the mouth, I should say, is always exposed on all of these. So that's not going to be a big deal. Again, we're just having this, so I don't even need to use this side. What I thought about doing is maybe going across with some war paint sort of looking thing. That way I don't have to cover up her face with the glasses, I don't have to directly use glasses, and I can kind of work with the idea of whatever her name is, Bayonetta. Yeah, it's Bayonetta. Let's say that this is green. This is the sort of green face paint. Or at least I'm zoning this out, so it won't really matter anyways. And we still need to make sure that the face is covered at least somewhat, because it's so heavy on this one. And we're still working with this one use glasses. I really don't want to use glasses again. I may end up doing that anyways, but that's my early framework for this. One thing, I think I talked to Wooly about this actually, is you know how in comic books, especially early 90s stuff, he called it something, I can't remember what the hell it is, I'll have to look it up later. But they had this weird sort of face mask thing going on. I'm sort of thinking about that. That maybe I could use that. And maybe have a little bit of metal something around here. Don't commit to anything. Not committing to anything. And then the rest we can just have the hair sort of spewing out all over the place. Hers is very wavy, very short. Hers is fairly long. Hers is also fairly long. But none of it really has... Yeah, she has sort of these tough bangs. She has bangs as well. Don't want to do a direct thing with either one of them. Hers parts to this side, hers parts this way. So let's... This probably looks like nothing to you guys, but I can kind of see what I'm doing. This is just to give us reminders of what to do later, so you don't really have to bother too much with it. Okay, this is sort of the loose idea of that one. All three of them have colors. All of them V-neck, aside from hers, which opens up. These two have armor. This one doesn't have armor. But all of them have pauldrons. So let's just say... Open up, maybe, to evoke this one. We'll have line work that comes down halfway into a V-neck. And... pauldrons. How am I going to work the pauldrons? One is this shape. One is sort of this shape, and another one is this shape. Which means an intermediary between them will probably end up being sort of like that, I guess. Or it may not have... Yeah, I guess I will have to use pauldrons either way. But it'll look something like this, I'm guessing. Yeah, that's okay. It's a basic framework thing to work with. Okay, let's see. This one does... It comes down and it breaks, has a line break there. This one has a line break in the middle, and this one line breaks this way. So I can probably still... Or I might be able to use this one later on anyways. We'll do it that way. I'm trying to hurry this along so I can skip ahead. This won't eat up... I don't want this to be a 2-hour-long video. And let's come back down. All of them have more or less the same sort of thing going on here. I don't want this to be too armory, though. Too much armor. I like the balance with this one, for the most part. Let's see. This one, do they all have a secondary? They kind of all do. But it's not that strong, so I won't make it armor. Let's make this cloth. And we'll come back down. All of them have guns, unfortunately. Fuck guns. Holy shit. None of them have frills except for this one. It's all metal. I can probably pull that up then. All of them have this break right there, which I think I've already done. Maybe I can pull it down. Do it this way. Video's probably stuttering like crazy because of the memory loss. Let's see. Thighs. Opens up on this. They all have a line break this way. They all kind of curve in like that too. This one has 2 breaks instead of that one. Let's do a compromise. Let's do sort of. I might be able to like put armor that comes across and is tied onto her thighs. I'm not sure. I may have to do this as being all armor though. That's one thing I'm going to have to compromise on the secondary layer. Basic boots. None of them tie down the middle except for hers. The knees on this one. She has sort of athletic knee pads. She has these kind of straight ball knee pads, and she has spikes. A good intermediary between all 3. Let's see. I need wraparound on this one to listen to this one. Have on that. So it would be. It wouldn't have that much of a spike. It would kind of. Yeah, it'd be sort of like that. Or it has a single raised. I'd give it a couple of raised edges. Ooh. This is really tiring. Okay. That's fucked up looking, but whatever. Let's see. This one has that sort of above polygon. This one doesn't have any. But they all do have sort of line work except for this one, although it does break even there. I can probably... Actually, hold on. Do it this way. And just remind myself that there's going to be a break right there. And don't really... I'm not going to bother with the gun until much, much later on, because that's a completely different thing. Alright, that's fine as far as that first thing goes. Now we're going to work back over with some loose details. Alright. Now shit's going to get really complicated. Now that I've done this, I kind of know how everything is going to look for the most part. Again, this is not detail work. This is just trying to get a rough idea down. And again, we're going to pick all the poses and stuff and everything later. This is basically just concept work for myself to work in future concept work, which is going to be really damn complicated. Comes back down like this. Say that there's something like that. How did I say the hair was going to go? Bang swings that way, bang swings this way. This is really is going to look like a 90s comic book character, I think. And I'll work with the hair later. Actually, let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's go ahead and do both sides. It's not really going to matter either way. Ponytail. Of course, we can't see any of her hair, so we don't have to worry about that. Remind myself, it halves there. In case you can't tell, drawing like this is really complicated. In a lot of ways, though, it's easier to commentate over me just drawing versus watching myself draw. Because whenever I'm watching myself draw, I get caught up thinking about all the mistakes that I made and all the things that I could have done. And I end up thinking about 5 or 6 different things at the same time, which really sucks ass. Alright, 15 minutes coming up, so I'm going to try to finish this up so I'll have an even break. Let's see. Remind myself there's a collar of some sort. And there's the break down. And one across. And Evens that way. It goes this way. This won't be symmetrical exactly, so it doesn't really matter. And of course, we're going to have to be worried about theme at the same time, because as we do fusions, they get more and more homogenized towards one another. This one's very feminine, this one is sort of feminine, and this one is definitely not. So it's going to be sort of barely feminine, but more like she's sort of sly in a way, and she's kind of has more of a seductive personality in a way. This one's very serious. So I kind of imagine this one's personality is going to end up being remind myself there. This one's personality is going to end up being sort of a mix of all those. She's going to be clever, sort of feminine, but not overtly sexual, at the same time being sort of involuntarily sexual, I guess. In other words, just cute. She's going to be cute, but also dangerous, I guess. I'll have to figure this out later. This is going to be something I can skip through, because I'm definitely not going to want to talk over that, because it's going to be the most complicated thing. The sort of tertiary, primary. Actually, this is the tertiary, whatever the one after that. Quaternary? I don't know. I forget what those are. I'll think of it after I'm done doing the commentary, once it's too late. 3 up, down across, break there to remind myself, and boots that come down into a pattern. Okay. Again, this obviously looks like shit at this point. But that's the point. It's not supposed to be complicated, and it's supposed to be very non-committal. That's the most important thing. You don't want it to really be anything special at this point. Just, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Just remind myself. Sort of that V break is going to be there as compensation for the other ones. Alright. This is, again, just to remind myself of how everything is going to go down. 2 belts, and to remind myself of that. So it's probably going to have a belt or something. It's going to have something there. I may come down... Actually, hold on. This is something else I need to point out. This one has this cape thing going on. The other 2 don't have that. But it's something that I think I would like to add in either way. Maybe not necessarily coming off the side. But just to remind myself, it's supposed to come down either there, or it's going to be... It may come down and just be a straight cape, or I may have it come down off the pauldrons. I don't know yet. But either way, that's something to decide later. And the belt, I think, will be a little bit longer this time. Alright. That's my rough idea. And this is really rough, guys. I'm really fucking rough. Alright, but I'm going to do a single time skip. We're going to probably go through the primary, and then we're going to... I'll probably skip the pose, too. And then get back to you once I get to the line work. But I'm going to be talking either way, so... See you in 5 seconds. Whatever. See you then, future Eli, you fucking asshole. Yes, very clever, very clever. Alright, this is future Eli. I'm speaking to you from the future, where giant ants roam the earth, and so on. Alright, where were we? He had just gotten done drawing the quaternary, I guess, primary. Like I said during the thing, this is just to get a rough idea of what all the details are going to end up being. I thought I'd actually finished this. No, that's right, because it took a while to get all the details down. Alright, and this, basically, I'm just going back over it, trying to kind of, fully flesh out the really, really rough idea of what all the details are end up going to be. This isn't going to be final by any stretch of the imagination. I imagine people that are watching at this point, that haven't watched the prior videos, are probably wondering if I actually drew the other things, because this looks absolutely horrendous in comparison. Which, of course, it shouldn't. This is, not everything that everyone that can draw fairly well draws all the time is going to look amazing. Especially if you're just doing it for the sake of, just putting down ideas. But after we get this quaternary layer down, we will move on to a completely new thing, where we'll try to figure out a pose. And that will be our I guess, quinary, is that how you say it? Quinary layer, primary, I should say. Then after that, we'll work back over that with a centenary layer, and then a septenary, I think is septenary, something like that, layer, and after that, we'll finally be able to move on to the final line work. So that is like 7, it may have been 8, I have no idea, different primaries that I have done just for the sake of trying to lay out a basic drawing. Alright, but it looks like here, this idiot is finally done screwing off. And he's kind of put down a little cape just to give himself a rough idea. I ended up not using this at all. Alright, here we are going to start on the pose. This is probably where you're going to make the biggest screw-ups. You can end up ruining a whole lot of work this way. The pose actually may be the most important thing about... Of course, in the prior ones, I was just choosing one of the existing poses because that makes it a lot easier. Plus, it kind of unites the idea that it's an evolution of one of the existing ideas. When coming up with the pose, you can see I disabled that one. It's still there, but I'm just laying out rough ideas over and over again. I end up having like 5 or 6 different primary ideas for poses. Here I'm just trying to come up with some sort of idea of what I want to communicate through her action. Unlike the other ones, I'm going to attempt to try to be a little bit more creative with this. But here's the problem with doing any of these poses. There's 2 things you have to worry about. One is that, you have to show off detail. It's pretty easy to find a pose that looks good, but you won't be able to actually tell what the design of the character is. Especially if you're handing this off to a 3D modeler, he's going to look at it and hand it right back to you and say, I can't use this. Because, sure, it's a pretty picture, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, I can't see what she looks like from the back, I can't see, half the details around her waist, or I can't see, her arms at all, or, it just depends on the pose. But you need detail plus action and / personality. That's the main problems. And like my compatriot here already said, you also need to worry about the personality. Because it's easy to find a pose that, looks good and shows off detail, but it may not necessarily fit the personality of the character. Yeah, my memory. Since I was recording this at the same time, it especially was a problem. I really need a new PC, but it's just too expensive at the moment. I can probably afford it, but it probably means that I won't be able to afford my payments for a while. So I'll just have to wait, as I've said before. I actually like this pose, but I couldn't end up using it. It was a bit too... I don't know, I didn't really care for it. I did several that were sort of like this, of her running... But I guess it made it look too much like she was running away from something rather than being proactive. And they didn't really fit her personality. With the context of the personality, whenever you are doing a design, you have to try to figure out what exactly the personality is even going to be. With these, it's easier with an established character. Because if you know that it's, like say it's Samus. Samus is not going to be in, like, the Bayonetta pose that you see down there. If you're going to do concept art or promotional work, she's not going to be lifting her ass up in the air and, check out my butt. She's not going to do anything like that. Samus is a very controlled person. Well, not according to the more recent games, but I don't even really give a shit about those. But anything that you do with her, she's going to be fairly static. It's not going to be too action-oriented. It's going to be conveying more of a sense of her authority. She's an expert. She's a professional. That's what it's probably going to be communicating. With this one, since it's a combination of all 3, it's actually going to be a bit of a problem picking up a pose, because, again, we're not combining the 3 originals. We're not combining Samus, Bayonetta, and the boss. We're going to be combining... Bayonetta, Aranetta, and the Baron. which gives us a little bit more leadway. That's the reason why you do that, by the way. If you just combine the 3 originals, if I had done that, it would have actually come out completely different. Whereas since I'm combining the combinations, I actually get a bit more leadway as far as being able to make things that are completely original to the design for the most part. Since you're making combinations, it's like the game of telephone. If you keep passing something down the line, it's going to change to the point where it becomes unrecognizable. That's part of the fun of doing this. You can do it the other way to come up with something that's a bit more fitting, I guess, for the original characters, but it's not quite as fun, especially if I've been working on these combinations for so long. Alright, I think this is the beginning of the one that I end up using. But like I was saying, as far as their personality goes, you have to come up with something that is fitting for the Baron, Bayonetta, and Aranetta. Since there are combinations, like I said before, they end up being kind of homogenized. So their personalities are a bit more similar to one another, so it's not that much of a problem. Bayonetta is obviously very controlled, very serious, but still kind of sexual, sort of in an involuntary way. The Baron, on the other hand, looks to be more like Samus in the sense that she's a complete professional. She doesn't take any bullshit. You know, that's just the way she is. Whereas Aranetta down there looks like she is more playful. Like, she's probably professional, but she may not take her job too seriously. In the sense that she gets the job done, but she likes to have fun at the same time, or something like that. So you're combining personalities that are not necessarily completely separate, but at the same time are a bit more of a problem. Alright, here we go on the scenario layer, I think? I don't know. But this is more the detail section, where I was doing the same thing that I was before with the kind of test subject that I was working with over to the side. But now I'm actually kind of finalizing everything. And this is what I'm going to be drawing the line work over. You can make an indefinite number of primaries, by the way. I mean, there's no limit to the amount that you have to do, or that if you can get it right the first time. You know, you can just start immediately on the final line layer, and, you know, I've done that before. It's not a big deal. It depends on how much concept work that you have to do. If it's not something that you really understand offhand, if it's a character that you're just imagining, it's probably going to take you a while. You're probably going to come up with a bunch of thumbnails ahead of time. That's basically what I was doing before. The thing over to the bottom left is basically a thumbnail character. Let's see. But as far as the personality goes with her, she actually changes personality. Even though I've finally come up with a pose, she changes personality quite a bit throughout the course of this thing. I picked this one because it shows off her curves, which kind of goes with Aranette's thing. But it's also kind of, it's very upright, very controlled. So it conveys a sense of power and authority, while at the same time, it's still sort of playful in a way. It takes a while to come. I mean, I can't really explain this too well. It's just sort of instinct, I guess. There's lots of things I could do or say to rationalize the decision, but in the end, it's more just kind of a feeling. It's just a personal skill that you need to develop as an artist. Yeah, get sure. Since he's raising one arm, one boob has to be slightly higher than the other. That's how boobs work. If you ever wanted to, this is such a stupid thing to talk about. If you've ever wanted to know how to draw boobs, imagine just basically like a plastic baggie that's full of, not water probably, but something with a bit more consistency. I don't know, like pudding or something. That sounds disgusting. A Ziploc bag full of pudding. But just the way that it reacts to things. Like if you poke it, that's what a breast does. If you kind of move it to side. Oh, that sounds really perverse. But yeah, if you do that, it sort of does the same thing. This is going to sound kind of funny, but if you're doing artistic work, you can't really think too perversely about things like that. Because you're drawing reality, and it's your job to draw things as they work. So if you start having to think about things like, oh, their genitals are here, or their breasts are doing this, or whatever, you have to think about it like a professional. You can't just get enamored. Oh, it's a booby. Oh, boobies. You can't do that. You actually have to be level-headed. Yeah, I can't really... I could never really quite figure out what to do with her hand. I knew that I needed to get her arm raised like that because I wanted to show off the undercarriage of what her arm looks like from the other side. Because it's being shown on the normal sort of front carriage on the left arm there, or her right arm. I end up changing the hand again later. Her hair, it's kind of Bayonetta, Bayo looking hair. I think Wooly was disappointed that she had long hair in the final. Yeah, he wasn't too happy. Oh well, poor Wooly. The gun, I don't really pay too much attention to the gun at this point. Once again, since the gun is such a completely different... If your character has any sort of a major accessory, don't worry about it too much. Just get the basic framework of the body down. And the major details. Major details. Major details will probably be something like... face, chest, waist, because those are the aspect ratio areas of human beings in general. Everyone, holy shit, this is going to get complicated. But the means of attraction in people, like you hear in women, like 36, 24, 36, that old cliche. I like big butts and I cannot lie. That's an aspect ratio. It's the size of the chest to the waist to the hips. And men prefer, I'll have to look it up, what exactly the exact, I think it's like 0.7 or something like that. But there is an aspect ratio that all men are kind of attracted to. It varies from person to person, of course. It's like, I think I finally get the primary done. I actually started commentating here, but as I say later, I lost the, well, I didn't lose it, I still had it, but I was accidentally recording in 3 frames per second, so I couldn't use this. Which is a shame, because the commentary actually was pretty good. Good job, Past Eli. You made a good commentary, then you couldn't use it. Good work. But men also have this, the ratio. But it's not really discussed quite as much. I don't remember what the math on that one is. But it's more slim. It's sort of more of an even curve versus the very drastic curves that a woman will have. But that's usually what people are actually attracted to whenever they are talking about how, good a woman looks, or, butterfaces, or, just stupid bullshit like that. They're actually describing the aspect ratio of the human body. So whenever you're designing anything, the sort of primary things that you're going to be looking at are going to be face, chest, waist, hips. With those being sort of your primary key features that you want to focus on. Not necessarily that you don't want to give a shit about anything else, but you know what I mean. So a lot of your details are going to be oriented around accentuating those things. Even in real life, real fashion designers do the same exact thing. They will take a look at, like, say, putting black on the edges of an outfit. Pulls in the light from kind of the overall kind of design of the outfit combined with your own natural body, and makes you look a little bit thinner than you normally would. Or maybe, like horizontal stripes. You don't use horizontal stripes. Those are a bad idea. And that's because they make you look fatter, no matter how thin you actually are. That's why you don't use horizontal stripes. Unless, of course, you are a woman and you are using horizontal stripes only on the kind of the chest area, which will make your chest look a little bit bigger. But you can't use it on the rest of the body, because you're trying to pull up the overall visual weight of the design up towards, your kind of upper torso, but keep it kind of more focused down on the lower torso. It's a big, complicated mess, and there's a lot to it that a lot of people, I guess, really don't understand about graphic design. Here I'm trying to demonstrate how to draw hair, but I end up deleting all this anyways. Kind of a shame. This actually doesn't look too bad. But I end up not using this. I'm trying to demonstrate that you can still draw using a big brush. Which
Good news, everyone!
Oh, I'm being interrupted.
I fucked up.
Yeah, you did.
I left the video in 3 FPS mode and did a little recording of this line work.
And you could have noticed, if you were paying attention, that I was moving my mouse around and just going haywire, doing all sorts of little things. That's because I was commentating at the time. And, still have the audio, but unfortunately, since it's moving at 3 frames per second, it's not much of a use to anyone. So I'll just try again. A shame, really, because it was perfect. I was funny, I was smart, it was amazing commentary. And now it's gone forever, and you can never actually validate what I just said. What a shame. But the sooner I can get through this... Hello from the past, once again, future Eli, you piece of shit. But the sooner I can get through with this, the sooner I can get back to watching my precious Star Trek reruns. Oh god, yes. Data, please rescue that ugly little girl on that dying world. Please break the Prime Directive. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, what's that, Tasha? You're being chased by the rape gangs again? Oh, that's so fascinating. Oh, she's dead. Oh, well. Anyways, some basic things I covered. It's going to be difficult for me because I'm trying to remember what exactly it is that I said that is no longer in existence. But this, I'll go ahead and talk about the hair. Hair do kind of fat lines as it goes down near the bottom. Stay thin. You don't want to have too much detail in your hair. A lot of that's going to be solved by color. Line, not quite as important. Actually, whenever I used to draw traditionally, I actually have not been drawing digitally for very long at all. But I used to be obsessed with details, line work, since I didn't really use color and I certainly did no shading. I used to obsess over that. Be sure to remember what the shape of the hair is. It's going to look like this, I guess. I'm trying to evoke Boss's hair. It's kind of pulled back. Of course, I'm not actually using these. I'm using these. This one has no bangs, so don't worry about that one. That one has kind of like curly, short hair, and this one has kind of spiky ones that go off to the side. I'm going to have them go off this way this time, though. But this is... my voice is kind of going out on me because I've technically been talking for about 30 minutes now. I'm not going to do this very long. I just wanted, since I've never done it before, I wanted you guys to be able to see how I do line work in real time. I really hope I'm actually doing this in 30 frames per second this time. Bangs, you can add quite a few lines, since you can't really concentrate too much on detail work in color, so you have to kind of rely on line work. Once we're actually done with this, if I can remember to do it, like say if this hair is going to be yellow, then I will go ahead and lasso all the... come on, lasso tool. Gosh, memory's still shit. I would lasso the hair, and then I would paint back over that hair with sort of a, like a yellowish black. You'd think that it wouldn't really matter, but it goes a long way. It helps out a lot. Looks a bit more professional that way, rather than just using straight black in every aspect of the image. Oh, the reason why I did the face first is because hair is not easy. I actually get a lot of compliments with my hair as far as the line work goes. Color, not so much. Well, the shading, not so much, I should say. But hair is very time consuming. It is so easy to fuck it up. Because it's easy just to be lazy, like, yeah, just, you know, here's the line for the hair, and then you just go on with life. But it doesn't look very good. Especially not if you're detail-oriented, or the style you're working on anyways is detail-oriented. One of the nice things about hair, though, not in this part, the bangs you have to get pretty much detail straight on. But, hold on. I'll get this last... Okay, I'll join it up there. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, that's so... Come on. God, that's so hard. Anyways, like here you can kind of just go crazy and just do whatever the hell you want to. Because that's where most of the hair is going to be, because if you look on an actual person's head, then it's just going to be a tangled mess near the center, whereas you're going to be seeing a lot more detail towards the bangs and towards the kind of outer, like out here. I'll show you this. If I can remember, this will be empty space. This will be background. I like to include those, especially on curly hair, because it makes it adds a little bit more, I guess, realism. Not really realism, but it's a lot of bang for your buck, I guess I could say. Because you don't have to do much work, but it goes a long way to making it look a bit more like hair. Delicious hair pie. Where did that come from? No idea. A lot of weird shit goes through a man's head when he's working on a drawing at 5:44 a.m. after he's been awake for the past 12 hours or so. Actually, the prior video, whatever that's called, the Baron, hasn't gone up yet. That goes up today, but I'm already starting on this. Sorry to shatter your illusions, but that's the way it is. You can see I'm still, especially near the, because she has long hair, so it's not going to be divided up much here. It's mainly just going to be, this area is going to be short, so you'll want, kind of just bangs and things to shorten up this way over here. But once you get to this area, this is where the haircut is going to stop having kind of tight ends, and this is going to start curving back down. So, if I can... I shouldn't have added this. I'm going to have to lasso this out. In case you can't tell, I'm a stickler for details. And it is such a nightmare trying to do this while commentating. Not that it's that... It's actually a lot easier to do commentary while I'm drawing than it is to do it whenever I'm... I think I said that already. Because I get stuck thinking about things. But on this, we'll just concentrate instead on making each line look like it's part of a single thread. The outer edges, anyways. But like it's still splitting apart because they're actually separate threads that are going down. In other words, these should be long and these should be short. I'm going to add a few more. I'm not going to finish the whole hair. I just wanted you guys to see what it's like to do very fine, precise line work. A la Plague of Gripes. God. It is a nightmare. By the way, this is something I said in my lost footage. Well, it's not lost footage, lost audio. Is if you're having trouble improving as an artist, do things that you're not used to doing. Like, you can practice drawing the same stupid shit. Like, just if you're like, especially if you're doing like a webcomic or something, and you're drawing the same characters over and over again, you can do that for years. And I'm sure you can think of your own examples. That's my hint, by the way. But you can think of your own examples. But there's plenty of people that they just never improve. Their style never gets any better. And that's because they're not trying new things. If you want to improve, you can't just keep drawing. I mean, practice does not make perfect. It really doesn't. Perfect practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. Shut up, fucking prick. I hate stupid sayings like that. No, it's, I guess diversity in practice is what makes perfect. Actually, it doesn't make perfect. It just leads to greater diversity. Because it's not like in art, you are your own teacher. I mean, you can have people tell you things, but ultimately it's going to come down to whether you are physically teaching your motor skills how to do certain things. And to do that, you need to try different things. But I only like to draw one. Then fuck you. You will stay shit forever. Plague, that's mean. It sure is. Suck a gigantic horse dick. I'm a terrible person, by the way. There's probably like some little old lady that found this stream Oh, it's such a pretty lady. Oh my god, horse dicks. Anyways, maybe I should wrap this up for the time being. There's more to comment later. Oh, because my voice is completely gone now. Alright, take it away, future Eli, you piece of shit. Oh god, my voice. Data, save me. Well, that was some interesting commentary. Thank you, past Eli. You really know how to endear yourself to your audience. Alright, what was I saying before? Okay, I'm continuing off where I left off, not where he left off, thank God. I think I was talking about waist-to-hip ratio. But I was actually correct. It's 0.7 is the, what they call WHR, waist-to-hip ratio, is considered to be the most attractive for women in most cultures. Supposedly in a lot of Asia, it's actually 0.6, and in apparently lots of parts of, what do they say here? South America and Africa, it's 0.8 to 0.9, okay? So apparently they really like the booty in those areas, I'm guessing. That's probably why. But of course there's all sorts of variations within the waist-to-hip ratio nonsense. Like you can have the same waist-to-hip ratio as another woman, but look completely different from her in terms of, I don't know, like how... I don't know, there's all sorts of things. Women will understand that a lot better. I don't know why I'm trying to explain it to you. You know what you're talking about, and I don't. But with men, I'm not sure what obviously, people don't give a shit about men. You know, it's something like that. I guess if I had to guess, it would probably be like in the 1.2 or something area. I have no idea. They may use a different standard for it entirely. Okay, anyways. Hold on. Oh, Lord. I shouldn't have made those Reese's peanut butter thing cookies. Those were not good. And I shouldn't have eaten them the first thing in the morning. I thought they would have hardened up, but they didn't. They're just shitty. Okay, what am I doing here? Oh, right, the line work. Her face came out very menacing. I actually keep this face the whole way through until the very end. And I completely change it, and I don't even show it. It's just something I did while I was rendering the video, actually. Because of how slow this computer is, it took, how many hours? I started it at, okay, so it took 19 hours to render this video that I'm commentating over. You won't even see this one because it's not complete. It only has past Eli stuff on it. But I end up, I had to wait a full day just to be able to continue my work. And I took that time to redraw her face, kind of fix up some... It's stuff that I'll talk about way later, but I end up fixing a lot of these things. Because right now she looks a bit too angry and a bit too menacing. She looks like more of a villain, which I don't mind. I really like interesting villains like that. Quote-unquote interesting. But yeah, because it doesn't really match up with the personality of the other ones. Because two of them are very controlled, and the only one that's even remotely kind of, extrovert, I guess would be the right word. The only one that's actually remotely extroverted would be Bayonetta down there. And she's not really menacing or anything. She's just kind of playful. I think the final one looks... Oh, God, the chains. The final one makes a lot more sense as far as her personality goes. Chains are a nightmare to draw. Well, not a nightmare, but they are not... they can be fun, but only if you don't really give that much of a shit about getting everything correct. I wanted to include the chains. They're present on... Which one? Bayonetta. Bayonetta has them on her belt. I decided to kind of add them here and there just as an element. Because now the advantage of doing this final one is that you can do all sorts of new things that you haven't done before. And with this one, apparently, in addition to giving her enormous breasts, I don't know why I did that. I also give her the chains. in addition to some other stuff. Yeah, there's just various elements that I started adding in at the last second. Because that's part of the fun of doing it this way. You don't have to get everything perfect, as long as it looks interesting. Again, whenever designing these things, one of my objectives is to try to make them look like they're part of their own universe. And if you don't take some shortcuts and you don't change a few things, very minor details, you can't just go haywire, then you're going to end up with a character that kind of just looks like a Frankenstein monster and doesn't really look like he or she belongs to their own universe. With her, I don't know. There's not really an established universe that I would say that she belongs in. Like, let's see. Bayonetta over there to the side, she looks like she might belong to a Mass Effect style universe. Both because she kind of looks like Miranda in a way. Although I don't really care for Miranda. A bit too man-faced for me. But she is kind of man-faced in a way. She has sort of the same hairstyle, which is that's the reason why people say it. But the outfit really sells it. That's the reason why. The other ones I really don't know. Bayonetta actually looks like she might be able to fit inside of the Metroid universe just because of the armor. I say that she's the weakest in terms of looking like her own character. And that's kind of the gist of all these. You want them to look like their own character. Character design is not easy. Both because of all the reasons stated. But I think I'm drawing the wrong layer on this one. I have to undo all this. I think I'll discover this here in a second. Yep, you just noticed it. Yep. Always draw on a new layer whenever you're doing things that are existing over other ones. But one of the problems of designing new characters is all this, plus the fact that whenever you're designing new characters, you're usually going to have to be working for someone. In other words, if you're doing video game, characters, then you're not actually designing things that you like. You're not designing things that make sense in terms of design and everything. You're designing things that are going to appeal to your lead designer. Or if you are the lead designer, then you're going to be doing things that appeal to your producer. And if you're even lower on the totem pole, then you have to, the big enormous one. This takes quite a while. The biggest enormous chain. If you're even lower in the totem pole, then you have even more levels of bureaucracy that you have to kind of go through before everything works out. You have to worry about what their tastes are. Maybe they... Wooly and I were having a conversation about this earlier, but since it's work-related, I'm not going to mention the details of it. But, I've had similar experiences. I used to work in independent video game design, didn't do that for very long. I wasn't very good at it, that's for damn sure. And, let's see. I've had some jobs that are very similar, at least. I've had graphic design jobs, and, those kind of have the same basic premise. Whenever you're having to do things, you have to appeal to whoever the guy in charge is. So, even though you might design like a perfect character and they look amazing, then you'll present it to the guy in charge and he'll look at it and say, nah, I don't like this. And since the guy in charge is not an artist, then odds are the guy in charge isn't going to know all these adorable little rules that I'm giving you. And they're not going to know how to draw. They're not going to know how to design. The best thing they're going to have to work off of is things like marketing sheets that list these are the key points that you need to hit on in order to come up with the perfect balance, the perfect marketing approach for your character. And that's the reason why these kind of big name companies, you see the characters and they're almost always kind of the same. It's rare that you see a character that's like Bayonetta over there, who is very, very aggressively different. And thank God for that. Good job, Platinum, guys. Because a lot of these big name companies are, the people that are working as leaders, either they may know better, but they don't want to take risks because since there is so much money being poured into the project, they can't afford to take risks. That's the same thing that's wrong with, like the movie industry. People always go, yeah, you're making the same thing over and over again. Well, it's because you're pouring billions and billions of dollars into making a movie. You want to make sure that you at least get the investment back. Something I kind of sympathize. I don't really defend it, but at the same time, I sympathize with them. Because these guys are not in the business of, breaking the mold, thinking outside of the box, things like that. They're in the business of making money. I mean, I'm sure that they aren't in the financial straits that, say, an internet animator would be in. But still, they have to make sure that they're making money, or else either they are going to go bankrupt themselves, or at least the people that they're working for are going to go bankrupt. In which case, they're not going to find any more work as whatever, they were doing before. So they had to play it safe. So they end up having to just focus entirely on, what's marketable. What has worked in the past. What can they emulate? It's not because they lack imagination. It's because the confines of their own industry are kind of fucking them over. And that's the main problem. I'm sure if you managed to get one alone and they knew they could trust you and say whatever they wanted to, they would tell you basically the same exact thing. And they would complain all the time about all the things that they really wanted to push, but they knew that they just couldn't. Not because they knew it wouldn't sell, but because there's always that risk that maybe you will hit the wrong release date. Maybe it didn't get marketed the right way. Maybe something happened in the news that made people turn against you. Like, remember the Spider-Man games? It seems like they had to remove the Twin Towers from one of those games because 9/11 had just happened. And, just completely random things like that can happen and absolutely destroy your game or your movie or whatever it is. So you have to be incredibly careful. Even me. I really don't give a shit what anyone says about things. But, like, I always shoot for Wednesday releases. And that's because that's the kind of core ideal release date for anything on the internet for some reason. I guess I don't know. People don't watch anything on the weekends. And they tend to not watch things whenever the week is first starting. But if you say, like, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday especially, Wednesday and Thursday are usually the core ones, people seem to goof off at work a lot. Yes, I know it's you. We know. Even your boss knows, but we tolerate it. You're a good kid. You're a good kid. But that seems to be the core time to release anything. Because that's whenever things spread the most. And I say spread because, on the internet things work by social media. You have to really worry about things spreading effectively. I'm watching the gun here. Yeah, I remember last time on the other one I had the brush size way too big. I think I thought ahead on this one, and I don't really do that. But anyways, yeah, Wednesday releases are the best. So even I am worried about things like that. Because I have in the past... Oh, Lord. Stupid cookie. I have released things in the past that didn't take off like they should have because I chose the wrong release date. I mean, people still saw them, but it didn't gain as much traction as it should have. The Dark Souls thing, I wanted to rush that because Dark Souls 2 was coming out. I knew people would be, just waiting for the chance to see anything Dark Souls related. So I knew that I could release that, just a few days prior to it coming out on a Wednesday, and that would gain it the most traction possible. And it worked. It got like 100,000 views or so in 2 days or 3 days or something. I think, all sorts of other sites linked it to during their own pre-release party thing that was going on. But even that, you always have to be worried about it. It's not something that you would think should be important in life, but unfortunately it is. That's just how things work. So the next time that you're complaining about movies or video games being too similar to one another, or the protagonists or something looking too generic, that's probably the reason why. If you still want to complain about it, believe me, go right on ahead, because if there's anything I know, it's bitching. I love to bitch. Because, I mean, look at my name. That's the reason why I chose my name. I love to complain about things. It's fun. One of the things that's kind of people that actually know me in real life, I usually seem to, the people that like me whenever they first meet me usually end up hating me, and the people that hate me at first usually end up loving me over time. That's usually how it works with me. And that is, yeah, I did it on the wrong layer. Looks better behind her than it does in front of her. What the hell was I saying? Something unimportant, no doubt. But yeah, people like me after a while. But the thing you kind of have to realize about a viewer as well is that I only tend to complain about things that I actually enjoy. And that's, I guess, just because of I have a critical personality which lends itself very well to anything artistic because I'm always very demanding of myself. But if you're just listening to me talk about a movie or something and I keep finding all the flaws in it, then it gets really irritating because it comes across that nothing is good enough for me. Which isn't the case. I mean, it's not that I'm constantly bitching about things so much as I want to see this better than what it is now. I want to improve on it even more. That's how I kind of view everything. I think even Matt has mentioned that I don't seem to enjoy anything. I think he mentioned that one time whenever I was talking to him. But yeah, that's how it is. Let's see. We're kind of finalizing thing. I think Dumbass starts talking again here in a minute or so, so I'll have to climb up. But I'm finalizing the hair. Hair is a bitch to draw. One thing I don't do in this one, but I do off camera whenever I'm finally done, is once all the color work is, I'll go more over that in detail later on. But once I'm done with all the color work, I go back over with eraser and I start erasing the lines, sort of, from the hair. Because most of what you see in hair is going to be lines and shading. So removing lines helps a lot later on. Like I said, I'll talk more about that later. I think my time is just about up. I will see you later. Take it away, past Eli. Yeah, Eli, it's 3 hours, I think it was. Alright, back to work. A shame, I was enjoying listening to George Strait. I don't want to be the kind that hesitates, be too shy, wait too late. I don't care what they say other lovers do, I just wanna dance with you. But in case you can't tell, this is going to be the color section of the commentary. Not color commentary, no. I need Marv Albert for that. I will go ahead and do it this way. I'll color this in. She looks evil this way, doesn't she? She looks so naughty. But I'm doing this so I can actually see what I'm doing. Even though this is going to be white, I will just do this. Then switch back, and now it's white. That's so that whenever we put up... I mean, I could... Since the canvas is white, I could easily leave that. But that just means that the... whenever the background comes in, then the background will be showing it behind her eyes, which we obviously don't want. Okay. Now, I've already kind of done this in some of the other videos. But we're going to have to sample all of their eye colors. She has sort of a violet blue sort of color. I can't, since this is so pixelated, you're getting, like, this is a light blue, this is like a dark purple. You'll just have to remember what the hell it is. Or find a good medium in here. In between the pixels. What is the bluish purple? Hers, since this is so obscured by the visor, I can't really tell. What were hers? Hers were sort of a grayish purple. And hers are a kind of livid blue. Grayish purple and livid blue. So it would make sense that hers would also be sort of bluish. Probably sort of a light blue on the scale. And hers kind of had the same problem. Hers is a little bit more visible. She was a bright blue. So we're probably actually going to get away from the purple a little bit. And it's probably going to be more around this area, I guess. Of course, most people won't even notice this. So why am I even wasting my time? But still, anal retention. Alright. This is actually day 2. I didn't just wake up. I watched, I think Epic Name Bros, playthrough of Dark Souls that came out recently. And unfortunately, it does not come out for PC until April 25th. Which means that I'm kind of fucked for a while. I think I also watched Wooly and Matt Liam's latest Nuzlocke. Alright, let's see. I bet they're so excited to hear that I actually watched something that they made. Okay. Alright, skin tones. Let's go ahead and, since this is a little bit simpler, I can sample these. Let's go ahead and leave that. Grab you. Always grab the mid-tones. Don't grab the darkest one because that's going to be handled by shading. You don't grab the lightest one because that's going to be handled by the lighting. You want to get the middle one. Alright, what the hell? Do I have to click off the screen? What the hell's... What in the world's going on? Maybe I selected eraser by accident. No? What the hell's going on? Huh. Huh. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Selected, which is a slightly different color now for some reason. Huh. That was weird. I've never seen it do that. One of the quirks of the program, I guess. Oh, well, anyways, let's take a look. Hers is sort of in the orange part of the hue. Hers is more of a reddish orange. And hers is back, same thing, more or less. Yeah, it's more or less the same color. Okay, so the main thing is going to be this and that. We're going to want to find an intermediate between these, which is going to be right... I'm looking at the color wheel, by the way. Right around here, probably. Yeah, that's good. Alright. That's one thing a lot of people don't think about. As far as white people goes, anyways. The hue of skin is always going to be in sort of the reddish to orange area. If you go into the yellows, and it gets really bizarre. It's sort of a peach color, but there's a lot of minor differences. And actually, I can probably just wand this. Hold on. Where's my line work? Okay, that's not too bad, I guess. And is there anything else that's skin? Oh, yeah, her boob window. If you're a girl and you get irritated at this, it kind of irritates me, too. But it is what it is. And I don't mind it. I bet you don't, Plague. What was that? Oh, yeah. Increment it. I'm going to miss a lot of this, but since it's in the middle, it doesn't really matter. This is mainly for the edges. We can make it a lot bigger, then go back over, and we'll just pick up what we lost. Like, we didn't hit a lot of things in here, but it doesn't really matter. This is mainly just a time-saving thing. That's the advantage of working with hard lines. See, if you're just painting, you can't do something like that. You actually have to do everything by hand. Whereas if you laid out lines ahead of time, then you can just wand select what the lines are not, and then paint inside of it. Isn't that nifty? And of course, for people that are really new to painting, how I do this, I set all of my... I don't actually need that. I set all of the... This is how you do it in Paint Tool SI anyways. Set all of the color layers that you're going to have, say, you know, skin, eye color, hair, everything, into one folder, set it to pass through. And then, normally people just set everything to multiply. But the thing about that, you have to be very exact. Because if you have like a little bit of skin this way, and then you come across on the other layer with this one, it's going to multiply that, and it's not going to look right. Whereas, even if I did this, and just had shit all over, and then I started drawing on top of this, for example, if it'd do it. Oh, it's doing it again? What the hell's wrong with you? Anyways, if it was working correctly... sorry, the opacity. Then it would hide it. You wouldn't even see it. That's the reason why you do it this way. Okay, come on, undo. There you go. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Alright. Skin's actually done. Alright, let's actually go ahead and put this white along with this. I'm probably going to, again, yes, preserve opacity. I'm probably going to not even use this mouth. But it's there. And I usually save the lips for last, but let's go ahead and do that just to show you how that works. We're going to have to go... God damn it, I'm going to have to sample all these. I really hate lipstick on women. I know some people absolutely obsess over it. I think it is the ugliest thing in the world. If you're a woman and you really love lipstick, more power to you. I like it whenever it actually fades in with the natural color of the skin. Oh gosh, really? Really? That's the sample? Maybe it's because... It's probably because I used an overlay on this. And this overlay is pretty heavy, actually. So let's actually... I probably used a brown... So let's bring it down a little bit and fade it down. This probably... Yeah, it's probably more like that. Alright. Get rid of you. But lipstick does not look good to me. You know what's really gross? Whenever you have, like, lipstick that's on the side of a cup or something. Oh, that shit's disgusting. Alright. Let's say that this is our lip color, then. And the funny thing is, it's not even going to really look like this. Name you lips. Nasty old lips. Because there are minor variations in tone, regardless of whether or not you have lipstick or not. There's going to be some minor variations in color around the lips. A little bit around the kind of nose. Just anywhere where there's a lot of blood being circulated. If you've ever looked at a like thermal readout of a human being, you can tell where that's happening. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too great either. The reason why I do lips last, and I'm going to turn this off, by the way, eventually anyways, is because this is the mid-tone, and a lot of this area is going to end up being a lot lighter after I go back over it with the kind of shine area that I'm going to do. And the lips are going to be the last thing you're going to want to put in because it has to fade in with the rest of the area. A lot of people, whenever they try to draw women, and they kind of keep fucking up. Because they're trying to do this. They try to draw these hard lips like this. And the thing is that lips don't look like this in real life. I know a lot of comic book artists, good God, try to draw them like that, but that's not really how it works. Actually, it could use a little bit of... Because I kind of forgot to do that. Because that's not how light works, kids. Light is not about I mean, light. There's no such thing as a line in real life. Except for whenever there are lines. But there's not very often many lines. But line... I'll give a very quick explanation of line. Well, a line is actually the meeting point of light and dark. Like it's white and, you know... You get the idea. But basically the idea is that we can't fully paint every single thing that we draw. But the thing behind her is going to be darker than her hair, which is going to be light. So that's the reason why that we draw a line. Because that signifies the meeting point of the light of her hair and the dark of the background. That's what a line is. Alright, that looks really heavy right now. Maybe I can kind of even that up a little bit. That may not look right. And this is going to look a little bit... I'm going to make this dark because I don't want it to... I don't want it to look like it's making her face fatter than it really is. Because this is her actual face. Kind of this area, I think. Actually, that needs to be shored up a little bit. Needs a little bit slimmer than that. Because it's folding down a little bit. And let's get rid of some of this. That is how the chin comes in, but it doesn't need to be that drastic. Let's give her a little bit of a... not too much. Just a little bit of pixel right there. You'd think that wouldn't really matter, but it goes a long-ass way. Even the smallest pixel can completely change how an image looks. Like, even if I, you know, do something like, add this, like that. Look, that completely changes her expression. It makes it, actually makes it look a little bit more evil. That, what is that called? Neziable fold or something like that. But be careful about your strokes, because you can completely fuck up an image ahead of time. Alright, I'll try to wrap this up as quickly as possible. But basically, the colors are going to change so much throughout the course of this thing. What I do know is that the metal is going to be... the metal is not going to be... probably, at least, not going to be bright. The fabric is probably going to be the brightest thing. This is how fabric and metal works. I mean, it can, like in her case, Samus's case, it can work a little bit differently, but she obviously doesn't look particularly natural. Oh yeah, her, the visor thing. Let's go ahead and, is it kind of a yellowish green on all of them? She doesn't have it. Yes, it is kind of a yellowish green. Let's bring it down to a little bit more green, give it some brightness. Again, I said I was going to, but let me very quickly. Whenever you're picking the colors for all these, it's going to be a long process, so just pick something basic, like let's say that we lifted the black. Just go with black for a while, and you can, it's pretty easy to see my thought process on the speed version I'm going to end up doing. But it's always going to be changing. I've already made one. Okay. We're going to see how this works. Because I didn't want to draw a visor. I can still do it if I want to. Again, don't commit to anything, kids. But I think I will at least see what it looks like if I go back over it and to say she has war paint. That way I can get away with having her have a completely open face, and the detail. This is not really. I'm going to have to like taper the edges and things to make it actually look like paint. But the purpose of this is just to get a rough idea how it's going to look. And again, the face is probably the most important region of a lot of designs because that's where the personality lies. I missed a little bit of the skin around here. There we go. So you want to make sure that you do this early and get all this correct because you're going to be orienting a lot of the colors around the face. Okay. Again, this isn't going to look quite exactly right. That doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look great. I can change up the colors a little bit. Maybe I'll give myself a little bit of... Nah, go with spread. Canvas, maybe? I don't know. How does that look? Yeah, that looks a bit like paint, I guess. And then I'll kind of probably try to erase a little bit of this stuff. Then after I'm done with this, I can go back to listening to George Strait. Yay! Or I can go back to watching Star Trek. Like a nerd! Which I am a nerd. But I'm a talented nerd. And a sexy nerd. Fucking sexy-ass nerd. But that kind of more or less looks okay as a concept. It kind of... How does her visor look in each of these? It does. I really like the visor on that one. Still not too entirely happy about her glasses. They always go up, which I've done here. That looks more or less okay. I could probably do this, get rid of that, and that will give a bit more of that original visor's shape to it. Get rid of... Come on, lasso tool. And that will more or less look okay. Alright, that'll change eventually. I'll probably actually change the color of that as well. But that's my... I had to remind myself to add I'll just go ahead and mascara. Because that green is going to kind of fuck up the... Let's go with purple too. Purple's like my favorite... Not purple exactly, but like this kind of... That's like my favorite color. This kind of area around there. Let's use that color, why not? Go back over it. Say that she has some mascara. And I'm probably going to reduce the opacity on this so it blends a little bit with the paint. Or more specifically, her skin tone. I might be able to get away with that somehow. But that way, it darkens the region around the... That's the reason why women wear mascara. It's to deepen the region around the eye socket and make the eyes pop a little bit more. It's the same reason they wear, like, eyelash shit. I'm not a woman. I don't know these things. But that's the basic idea. I'll go ahead and make my extra layer just to demonstrate this. One last thing. But you can... Let's get rid of my spread. Texture. You make the eyes look realistic by adding little bits of shine. This actually doesn't exist sometimes. This is... If a camera is taking a photograph, it shows up a lot. but it's going to be from one direction for the most part. Don't make it look exactly... Don't have like one dot here and then one dot here. That's not how it works. You have to make it sort of look like the directionality of the light is coming in from one side. It'll make it look a little bit more natural. We can come down over the edges and get rid of some of this black. And a lot of that is going to end up being gray in this area anyways, so that's how you do that. Anything else major as far as color goes? Because I think you guys already know how I work in regards to sampling. You sample one thing from one person, then you sample it from another person, then you find the intermediate. That's how you do it with everything. The rest, as far as color decision goes, I will explain that later. I guess future Eli will handle that piece of shit. He'll probably have a much weaker voice than I do, though, because I just woke up and he is probably going to have been speaking for quite a while. Shit on you, motherfucker. Alright. Oh, by the way, her belt. Oh, this is stupid. The belt's not holding up anything. Shut up. It actually, like, would hold, like, pouches, like ammunition and shit like that. But I'm not going to draw it because it would obscure the rest of the design. But that's the reason why belts like that are there. And the reason why it hangs like this is because it's sexy, you piece of shit. You want to fuck her, don't you? You loser. Alright. I'm sorry, guys. I'm mean. Anyways, take it away, future Eli, you sexy, sexy man. Okay, once again, thank you for that wonderful commentary. Hats off to, past Eli. Okay, what the hell? Oh, yeah, my voice probably is going to end up being a lot weaker. I also just sort of woke up. But, my voice kind of just does whatever it wants to. Oh, the hair, yeah. I was trying to figure out what color to make her hair. And we have one blonde, we have one brunette, and, well, not one blonde, one brunette. We have, one with raven hair, I guess I should say. So I end up thinking, well, maybe I can make it sort of a reddish brown. And that doesn't last too long. I think I end up just making it sort of a, more of a strawberry blonde sort of thing. But it ends up, because of the lighting, and it ends up looking more just normal blonde. Which doesn't really matter too much. It's still pretty fitting. Yeah, okay, yeah. Watching Star Trek episodes. Oh, the first, yeah, oh, I love the Cardassians. Not the, there's a TV show or something with people named that, isn't there? I don't know, I don't even watch television. Not because of a moral stance, we don't have television, that's it. I really like the Cardassians on Star Trek. DS9 probably had more, DS9 was more consistently good, but, I think TNG probably had more really good episodes. Oh, one of my favorite, the Four Lights episode, I can't remember what it's called. But basically only the segment where Picard is conversing with the guy. The guy has taken him hostage and is interrogating him. I love anything that's like that, especially in Star Trek. Oh, I love those things. Because it's always so good. The dialogue is always so good and compelling. There's a DS9 episode. Surprisingly, in Season 1. I think the reason why it ended up being so good is because it was actually based off of a play that was written by a Holocaust survivor, I think. But it was about it was about a Jewish guy that was being put on trial for, he was either collaborating or he was impersonating a German officer. I can't remember. But the DS9 episode is based off of it, and that is one of my favorite episodes. The actor, hold on, I'm gonna pause this. Okay, I had to look it up. Let's see. It's an episode called Duets. A lot of you guys probably don't even give a shit about this, but I fucking love Star Trek, so whatever. But it's an episode called Duet. A filing clerk named Maritza, who was working in one of the Cardassian labor camps, is basically impersonating the guy who was his leader during the time, who was named Goldar Heel. And he's doing it because he's trying to create a villain that will force the people on his planet to admit their own war crimes during the occupation period of their of the Bajoran planet. And it is a really good episode because of the actor that played the guy. Who played him? Ritza. Because this guy is really good. Harris Yulin. Look that guy up. Harris, Yulin. He's a fantastic actor. He did an exceptional job on that episode. I will give myself some time to nerd out about Star Trek. You shut your mouth. Anyways, I guess back to this fucking drawing. It's not Star Trek, but whatever. But anyways, like I was saying about my voice kind of just does whatever it wants to. Some days I will wake up and it will be the deepest sounding shit that you have ever heard. Other days I will wake up and I'll sound like a little boy. Yeah, I can't control it. And I've always had a lot of problems with my voice. My voice kind of sounds like this, not because I'm trying to sound professional, but just because it just sounds like that. And even whenever I try to sound normal around other people, they say, "Why do you sound so formal?" And I'm not trying to be. I just sound like this sometimes. Except for whenever I'm mumbling. Then I'm just mumbling. You can't understand what I'm saying either way. Okay, but going through this, I am just sampling out colors, trying to figure out what exactly everything's going to be. You shouldn't mind the Star Trek talk, because this is going to be a long final stretch. Because I think Past Eli is done. Thank God. That guy was a weirdo. But the rest of this is just going to be me, and it looks like I have, oh lord, like 25 minutes left of commentary. Well, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'll try to pace myself. I tend to be too worried about filling in gaps of time, and I hurry everything that I'm saying. Okay, but whenever you are working in color, then, well, doing it this way anyways, then the first thing that you pick is probably not going to be the final color that you end up with. So don't worry too much about getting things right the very first time. Like in this case, I end up changing the colors on the main suit and everything. Not too much. The little cape thing off to the side is dramatically different. Well, not dramatically different, but pretty consistently different. Yeah, I forgot to add in the little glowing bits here. The nipple beams, nipple headlights, or whatever. Hey, that is a thing. People call breast headlights. That's funny, isn't it? Nah, it's not funny. But most of this changes. I think the gold, yeah, that stays the same. The gold stays the same, at least. But everything changes. You don't have to commit too much to it. Don't worry too much about it. Just put a color down. Sometimes I don't even put down a color that I think I'll end up using. Sometimes the surrounding colors are just so subdued that I end up picking something that's really bright. Like these kind of cells off to the side, the little stripy things that are on her arms and her rib cage. Those I did intentionally to be very bright, just to kind of stand out. Just so that working around the surrounding area is a bit more natural. It's not as problematic. I guess that doesn't really make much sense, but whenever you're working and like if everything on the thing is gray, then it's really hard to kind of make sense out of what the whole design looks like as a whole. So you want to divvy up these, what I call zoning. During this, this is a zoning process. I'm just marking out the sort of territory of all the colors and what everything is going to end up being. Because even this is not going to be final, maybe. I mean, maybe like the boots. The boots is a perfect example. Right now, one of them is sort of a bright color and one of them is that kind of subdued color. I switched those on the boots. I switched them from what it is on the pants. So that changes over time, although there are more dramatic examples in some of the prior videos. Here, I'm using the hue and saturation tool. In Paint Tool Sci, it's not like Photoshop. In Photoshop, even if the image is completely black and white, then you can still give it hue and saturation. In Paint Tool Sci, it needs to have at least it needs to have a good amount of saturation or else it can't do anything with it. It can't create saturation out of nothing for some reason. So you always have to make sure to include just a little bit of color. If you start with a complete gray, then you're not going to be able to color it. So if you run into that problem, that's what's happening. You can fix that by just clicking the preserve opacity thing off to the side on the layer and going back over it with a full-size brush. Unless you have already like painted it to be like you painted a grayscale painting, then you're just fucked. Yeah, I can't help it. Then I guess you would have to create another layer. This is, oh gosh, I'm getting too complicated. You would have to create another layer, put a solid color on top of that layer, wand off whatever is on the layer that you want to colorize, and then go back and delete what you don't need so that the color is sitting on top of that grayscale layer. Then you can merge the tool, and then you can alter the saturation, maybe. But since it's on another layer, even if you kind of fuck with the opacity, yeah, I'm having a lot of problems figuring out what her base color should be, so I'm saying the theme of each one of them is black, pink, violet, and sort of a grayish red. And from that, I end up saying the midpoint is going to be sort of a purple color. At that point, I decide she's going to be purple, for the most part. Sort of a reddish purple. What the hell was I saying? Oh, but if you merge that down, you run the risk of it flattening out the tonality of the image, so just be careful. Just, don't paint in grayscale and paint tool SI unless you want it to be gray. Otherwise, you're going to fuck yourself. Here I'm kind of adjusting, because even though everything is going to end up being purple, you don't want it to all be the same shade of purple. And you don't want it to, like, I can't make this, like, one part of her clothing a bright yellow, because that doesn't match these sort of, low saturation purples that I'm giving her. I compromise with this by giving her this cape. This sort of cherry red cape. And the fact that there's this nearby red, this may sound like bullshit to people that are not used to graphic design, but nearby colors, yeah, I make it orange, but it ends up looking yellow. The nearby colors can make the other colors near that color look completely different. Like, say, what's a good example? You've probably seen optical illusion images online, internet images of, sample this image in Photoshop. You'll discover it's actually white, even though it's, yeah. The combination of all the, why did I say that? It couldn't be in relation to the gun. Oh, well, whatever. Anyways, now I distracted myself and I'm thinking about too many things at the same time. But in regards to, what was I saying? Oh, the matching colors. If you say put a bright red next to, I don't know, a green, then it kind of almost makes things look a little bit orangey. Especially in real life, it's not really much of an issue in digital because of natural lighting. But think a lot about what you want to be the sort of primary color and what are going to be your accent colors. Because while your primary color is going to be what most people are looking at, the sort of accent colors that are surrounding that area are going to be what gives it most of its personality. In this case, I tried to offset all this purple with this sort of red. Oh, yay, the shading part. Shading the hair right here was a lot of fun. I like using dark colors for shading, because I don't like to overshade things, so using a dark color really helps to give a lot of tonality to the image without committing too much to painting it too much. Like, I didn't use a bright red for the cape, because if I used a bright red, that probably would have clashed too much with the subdued tone of the purple. If I'd used something like a blue, that would have matched the purple a little bit too much, and it just make her look like a blueberry, because there's just way too much of one color. It's like, whenever I go out shopping, I like to wear my blue jean jacket, just because it is really comfortable. I love that thing. But I also wear blue jeans, and I have a blue jean hat. I'm not a very fashionable person, That's a very bad idea. You don't do that in public. Unless you want to be ridiculed by rednecks. But they're still rednecks, so fuck those guys. They still live in trailers like the rest of us. Well, I don't live in a trailer, but you know. Anyways, you want to make sure that things match, but they also complement one another. They're accents. I'm going back over with an eraser to sort of leverage out the hair. You don't have to do that too much with cloth, but with hair it's a big problem because hair is actually, you know, just thousands and thousands of tiny little bitty strands. And unless you feel like drawing thousands of tiny strands, you're going to have to compromise by probably playing tricks with your tones. Whenever you're doing your tone work here, if the edge is hard, then it should be something that you don't erase or blur. Whereas if it's something that's like cloth you see on the sign under her arm, if the light is sort of splaying out all over it, then you want to make sure to erase the edges of it to make it look like the light is evening out. They make no sense to you whatsoever, but that is about as good as I can do, guys. In this one, the light is going to be coming from the upper left, so I'm trying to keep that in mind with everything. I think with this, I'm trying to be non-committal to the light source, but I end up going back over and making it a little bit more extreme as far as lighting goes. I think my voice is finally starting to give out. If I had another person, then it wouldn't be as much of a problem since they would be talking half the time. Another thing you have to consider whenever you're doing the shading is that since her dumb headlamps, or whatever I call them, headlights, are going to be lit up, then the surrounding area is not going to be lit because there's going to be an additional light source coming from that side. You notice here I did hard light on one of the edges because this is metal and it has hard, it's not, some parts of it are curved and some parts are very hard angles. So that just keep that in mind whenever you're doing your shading, and especially whenever you're doing your light sourcing later on. But a lot of this is just kind of tedious work until you get to a new area. Whenever you can, again, don't use black. Try to use the same color whenever if you're doing it this way. If you're doing it on another layer, if you're doing it on the same layer, it's sort of the same thing, but it's a different way of working on it. But anyways, the way that I'm doing it, if you're doing a shade layer like I am, then pick a similar color to the one that you're going to be working off of, but change it just a little bit. A good rule of thumb is to add a little bit of red to whatever you're doing, or a little bit of yellow. I say red usually because it's just a little bit warmer looking, I guess. I mean, just do whatever looks best. Experiment, kids. But take your existing color, sample your existing color, add a little bit, change it so that it's it on the color wheel is moving a little bit towards either the left or the right. It kind of depends. I guess yellows I move towards the reds. Blues I move towards the sort of magenta. Straight up blue is a bit more difficult because you can't move into the greens. So with blues, I guess I try to get more towards the purple. Although, usually I don't work too much in sort of that sky blue territory. That's probably the most difficult because the reason why you're moving towards the reds is because of daylight and natural lighting. Daylight naturally gives everything sort of a reddish tint or yellowish tint to it. If we lived under a blue sun, then everything would have a bluish tint to it. That's why. That's why things work that way. So everything will end up... That's the reason why whenever I'm finally done with these things, I usually have a multiply layer with an opacity of like 2 or 3% or 5% or something. And it's actually a solid color of red. That's to even it out and make things look a bit more like natural sunlight. It's the magic of digital editing and digital work. I kind of fuck up the face on this one because the lighting is too hard. I was getting a bit too enamored with the idea of the light source and making it look as dramatic as possible. But I ended up making her expression look a bit too forceful and sinister as a result. I fix it later on, whenever I'm finally done with the whole thing. You could see me earlier, a few seconds ago, disabling the multiply mode and going to normal so I could see what color it was that I was working in. The funny thing is, even though, since this is multiply, you think that I'm working with a dark purple. I'm not. I'm working with the exact same shaded color that I'm painting over right now. And it's just that since it's set to multiply, it's making it look dark purple. But again, you don't want it to be black, or else it's not going to have any additional saturation to it, and it's not going to look natural. It'll look sort of natural. It's not going to look terrible or anything, but it just won't look as good as if you were using this method. Something that I said earlier was that you do the same thing with lines. Like her hair, I should have changed her hair lines to like a sort of an orangey color. But that's something that you do whenever you know, oh, her hair is going to be orange. So you change the surrounding lines to orange. I do end up doing this, but I didn't do it as much as I could have. Like, I wanted to change the, like the metals line to be sort of a soft bluish purple, I guess would be the best one. And the cape should be a sort of a dark red, but still not that saturated. That way everything kind of blends with its surrounding color. I mean, that's really anal retentive. I'm sure it sounds like unnecessary bullshit to a lot of you guys, but I've just been working in it so long, it comes naturally to me, I guess. Once you have more experience under your belt, if you don't already, then you'll probably end up doing kind of the same thing. It just depends whatever your technique ends up being. And guys, be really careful about saying that anything is your style or your technique. Because I've seen, this is really prevalent online, and I think, thankfully, it's gotten less terrible over the years, but this idea, especially in America, that everyone is right, everyone's a winner, it's not true. Everyone is not right, everyone is not a winner. You can get things wrong. Even if it's your style, you can still make it not look as appealing as it could look. I've seen plenty of people that they obviously don't know how to draw, and they're just screwing up, and they defend it, oh, it's just my style. It's not your style, you just suck. Practice. I mean, not that I'm the best drawer that ever drew a draw, but, you know, try to improve. Try to improve, guys. Don't just defend whatever you're doing. If you're an actual artist, you should never be happy with the result of whatever it is that you've drawn. And I'm dead serious about that. If you want to being an artist is suffering. I don't mean that kind of the cliche way. You know, all artists are like cutting their wrists or whatever. Nothing like that. Just, you can't be satisfied. You should always be aiming to improve. You should always be trying new things. That's how you get better. That's how you... Oh, I'm going to get so pretentious. But it's the same thing with writing. Writing is less about telling a story and more about self-exploration. It's about... If you've ever heard a writer say that they don't even know what the book is going to be about until they're halfway through or something like that, it's because that's just the nature of writing. Like you're sitting down and something is on your mind, like say, oh God, the novel that I wrote was about like financial inequality, cultural inequality between financial classes, basically. I mean, it was a sci-fi thing, so it was about something completely different. But that was the theme. That was the theme of the book. Early on, I decided that's what I'm going to write about. And it wasn't because I know so much about that subject. It was because that was what was important to me at the time. Because I was fucking poor. I'm still fucking poor, but I was even more so. Like, I had, you know, pennies, and that was my life savings. And I had no job, and I couldn't find a job, and, you know, so on. Just stuff like that. So that's what the book was about. And the whole process of writing was about trying to explore that, and in the process, learn more about what my own thoughts were on the matter. Because a lot of people think this is my opinion on something, and even if they're not experts on it, this is my opinion, and they're settled on it. But if you start writing about it, you will very quickly learn, oh, the thighs are such a problem. I always have problems with thighs, especially if I had that middle line going down the center, because they're two different areas, but it's one surface. Anyways. But the more that you write about it, the more you're going to learn that your own opinion on the matter is going to end up changing. Maybe you won't have a complete turnabout, like say abortion is wrong, and you write a book about abortion, and at the end of the book, abortion's actually totally right. You probably won't do that. I mean, people just aren't like that. Although that happens sometimes. I've heard that. But you might discover more about why you believe certain things, and maybe you weren't as right as you thought you were. Or maybe you will learn, I understand why this is the way it is, and I have sympathy for the people that I used to blame. Things like that. That's what writing is like. You're writing it as a means of self-expression and a means of self-exploration. If you're not learning while you write your own story, then you're not writing correctly. You don't write to tell, you write to teach yourself, and you write to teach other people in the process while you learn. And that's the reason why you have to do a draft and then go back over it. Because once you have finally gotten through like midway of the point of your story, you finally realize, that my theme is actually going to end up being this. And you go back over all the chapters trying to solidify that point. And it's the same way in drawing. You need to try all sorts of different styles. You need to, if you're drawing and you're not learning things, and you're not making mistakes, and you're not screwing up and looking at your own drawing and saying, I hate this, then you're not drawing correctly. If you draw something and then sit back and go, yeah, that shit's the fucking greatest, and a guy comes by and says, hey, there's some flaws here and there, and you say, shut up, that's my style, then you are a pretentious piece of fucking shit. Sorry, but whatever. You are a pretentious piece of fucking shit, and you are not helping anyone. You are doing a disservice to yourself. If you want to improve, you need to hate what you are doing. And I don't mean the sense that you need to despise everything that you do. Enjoy it. But also approach from the mentality that nothing is ever going to be perfect. Like this, there are so many things about this that I absolutely can't stand, and that if I did it over again, I would do it a completely different way. But it's always going to be different every time, and it's never going to be perfect. And that's where my name comes from. Like I was saying again. Like I was saying earlier. It's not that I hate things, it's that everything can always be improved on. And here I'm adjusting the lines. I'm finally lassoing out her hair. This takes forever to do. If you're really smart, unlike myself, you would probably keep all the major areas of your lines to their own layer, so that you could do this easily later on. But unfortunately, I'm not that bright. And the next time I draw something, I probably still won't be that bright, because I'm too lazy. But I'm adjusting it to make it look a little bit orange, and it looks so much better. And I'm going to adjust this and make it look a little bit red. And it will look so much better, because right now it's kind of this purpley color. It's not really blending with anything correctly. And this area, and it's going to be a little bit red, a little bit tan. It looks so much better now. That's why it's important. And the line right now isn't set to multiply, so that's the reason why everything looks kind of weirdly purple, because it's not multiplying down, otherwise it would look kind of black. But anyways, like I was saying, nothing is going to be perfect. If you're drawing something and you're just beating yourself up about it, that's the inverse of this. You can't sit there beating up yourself about something. And you can't get anal retentive, and like I've seen people draw out these big grids, these grid sheets every time they want to draw something. And, no, I have to get the perspective just right. Shut up and just draw, for the love of God. I mean, if you're doing that, you're not drawing, you're not learning anything, you're just being anal retentive. You're not accomplishing anything. You think you're being special by doing this professional thing of drawing out this huge grid sheet or, something like you're not doing anything. You're not helping yourself. People don't do that for that reason. You don't draw out a grid sheet every single time that you draw. I say that because I just have vivid memories of one guy that did this all the time. There's all sorts of examples, I guess. But it's not a matter of doing the correct process. It's a matter of just sitting down and just going. You just go. Don't think about, like, if you're watching this and you think, I need to emulate what Plague's doing. I need to lay out my primary and then do another one. And just start drawing something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're happy with it. I don't care if while you're doing it, you think it's the worst thing that you ever saw. Just keep doing it. That is the only way that you're going to learn. That's my sound advice. Hate your own work, but at the same time, don't hate it. Here I'm experimenting. This is what I'm talking about. I don't even do this normally. I don't add textures to anything. I'm being lazy right here and thinking, well, maybe I can just kind of half-ass a texture just to make it look like it has a texture, even though this isn't a texture. If you're actually hand drawing a texture, it takes like over an hour. That's the reason why I'm not doing it correctly. What I end up doing is saying, I don't really like it this way. So what I decide to do is just go online, lift a few free texture things. I really don't like applying textures to things too much, but I think I do it off camera. In a second, I will give up on this, and I will pause the video and then start a new one. Yeah, time for resourcing and food. Actually didn't eat, sadly. I starved that day. But I found some textures, and now you notice everything sort of has a texture to it. Not the best looking texture, but it's just sort of vague enough to give you a general idea that, like, the cloth has a little bit of cloth texture to it. If you don't look too closely, it's fine. If you really zoomed in on the picture like you can do here, then it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look very professional. But, again, this is just sort of a time-saving thing. You're not supposed to look this closely to it. Like right now, what we're looking at here is zoomed in really far. This is only 5,000 by 5,000. I think whenever I do the final export of this, it'll probably be 2,500 by 2,500 or something like that. Because it has to be bigger than kind of the 1K range, because you also have to see the kind of the other girls that are on the wheel. Voice is kind of going out. But it has to be big enough to see the other surrounding area. But I'm finally finishing up here. I'm just adding in the dumb little backgrounds that are completely pretentious. Oh, I'm so painterly. Look how precious I am. This, I guess I can explain this, but I'm trying to find colors that's sort of in the same color range. It's going to be red, purple, blue, maybe a little bit of yellow. I don't like to get much play on green. I really don't like the color green too much. I don't dislike it, just it doesn't blend that well digitally with some other colors unless it's sort of green or blue as primaries, and I don't do that often, which is why I don't do it that way. But just play with different settings if you're doing a stupid little background like this. Try overlay, try saturation, just whatever, just until it looks okay. Here I'm adding my little overlay that I like to do. Actually, don't lower the opacity. I keep it to 100 opacity. Yeah, okay, we're done. I keep it to 100 opacity and just bump up the... I'm trying to find the final drawing here. I try to bump it up to the point that I can actually take it all the way up to almost being white. That'll help it be a little bit more natural. Okay, some final thoughts on this. God, I'm sure you guys are tired of listening to me. It's been 2 hours. But, final thing for this. Coming with a name is the final best thing. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention the final things that I did here. I went back over it. I added a little bit of kind of bloom stuff going on here and there. I erased the lines on the hair and on some of the cape. And I think that's about it. A little bit on the sides where most of the light is going to be coming from. because you don't want any hard light or hard lines where the light is originating out of. The erasing the lines on the hair makes it look a little bit more natural. I probably could have done that a little bit better. It doesn't look too great, but it doesn't look bad or anything. The face I changed a lot of. She doesn't look quite as menacing now. She looks a bit more even as far as her personality goes. She doesn't look like she's some sort of maniac anymore. She's a bit. I think she has. No, I think she gets her bust from Bayonetta. Pretty big, pretty big. Maybe I should have toned that down. Maybe I shouldn't have. I'll let you be the judge. But the final thing for all of this is going to be the name. The name is going to be the most complicated thing. I'm actually, while I'm recording this, I'm still not totally sure on the name, but I do have a front runner. Actually, I don't even have it written down. I was telling Wooly about it, but he never responded. He didn't like it, but I kind of like it. In consideration of all of these, the name that you pick has to be something that's kind of evocative of all three of the originals, all three of the combinations, but is also suited towards her, the final character. It has to be her name. It can't just be, Bayonetta. People were saying, oh, that's going to be the final one. No, that sounds awful. It's not going to be Bayonetta. That's terrible. I'll give you some background on these guys, though. The boss has several other names. She is also known as the Joy, which I'm sure people that played the game know that. She used to be known as the Joy before she kind of turned heel. She was also known as, if I'm saying this correctly, Voyevoda. That isn't Russian. It's one of the, I think it's one of the Baltic languages. I'm not sure. But it's supposed to mean warlord. There's also a number of plays and songs that are named the same thing, which is interesting. I wonder if there's a background behind that. But she's also known as the Legendary Soldier, Mother of Special Forces, and the Mercury Lady. Bayonetta, on the other hand, is... Her real name is, if I'm saying this again correctly, Cerise. And, of course, she's one of the Umber Witches, which I think that's as far as her nicknames go. Samus is also called Lady sometimes, Newborn, the Entrusted One. I think the Chozo called her Hatchling sometimes. She's referred to as a Space Cadet during some games that shall not be named. Also called Princess, Outsider, and nicknamed Sammy sometimes. All the names have a general theme. The boss's names revolve around her immense influence on war and her sort of matronly position in the world. Bayonetta doesn't have many nicknames, only her actual name. And her given title and maybe her quote-unquote job. That's sort of fitting for her outward personality. The introverts tend to have a lot of nicknames. Samus's names seem to be all juxtapositioned against her appearance and her job. She's a bounty hunter. She looks very serious once you get the helmet off. Then I guess that's supposed to reflect how people, just a very select few people, know her intimately, and then that's where she gets her nicknames from. All those seem to be centered around that. She's someone that a select few people love, but it's hard to get to know her behind the mask. So if you combine all of these together, you end up with a general theme of like a legendary fighter that hides behind her position as a soldier, but she still has a lot of bleed over from a sort of aggressive but focused personality. There's also a softer side to her, maybe, that's hard to get to, but maybe she's forgotten herself. Like she's not even that aware of it herself. It's something that other people have to find in her. And that's where she'll get her nicknames from or whatever. And that's sort of what the final result ended up being. So I guess that's a success. But if you think this is overcomplicated, this is just how character design works. This is also something that I would talk about in a writing video. But it gets really complicated. If you're really nailing a character, you have to think like this. And it's something that I imagine a lot of people just don't have the taste for. You have to be a huge nerd to do this sort of bullshit. But I pondered over this for quite a while, and I think my front runner at the moment is actually the word Cerise, which is French for cherry. is sort of my front runner. Either Lady Cerise, the Cerise Lady, or the Cerise Hunter are the ones that I wrote down. And that is because Cerise is actually also a color. And that color is sort of a cherry color, but also more of a purple. So it's sort of a purpley red color, which if you look at her color scheme, that's what she is. And also, it sort of combines Bayonetta's real name, Cerise, or whatever how it's pronounced. It kind of evokes that. At the same time, it's sort of combining a couple letters from Samus Aran, that part of the name too. And Lady is evocative of both Samus and Boss, since they're both Mercury Lady, and also Samus is referred to as Lady sometimes. And Hunter, if I go with that one, that's more of a Samus thing. But it also kind of goes along with her physical appearance. She kind of looks like a hunter. So I don't know which one of those three I'll end up picking. I think it's going to be one of those three, though. Of course, by the end of this, you can see the video and look up at the title, and maybe it'll say just Bob the Builder or something. I don't know. And maybe it'll be completely different. I don't know. But anyways, I'd say that this whole series has been more or less a success. I didn't know if people would actually give a shit about it whenever I first started. The Baron one didn't really have many views, but the other ones did fairly okay. So I hoped you enjoyed this 2.5 hour, or whatever it is, commentary podcast of me talking about nonsense. I may do more of these fusions in the future, or maybe this will be the only one that I ever do. I don't know. It just kind of depends. But I will go on to greener fields in the future and find other things to do. But it's been quite a journey, but this is how you do it. And if you can't tell, it's really complicated. This is the reason why you don't see many people contributing on these Trifusions. Because if you're doing it as detailed as I am, it takes a very, very long time. Alright, but I encourage you to try your own things. Come on, kids. Don't beat up yourself, but at the same time, be critical enough to improve. That's my advice to you. But I hope you enjoyed these videos, and that's it from me, Plague of Gripes, aka Eli. I think I'm sometimes actually refer to myself in my head as Plague, which is getting to be a problem. I really need to get out more. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do your own thing. Enjoy life. Oh, and give me lots of money. That would help. That would help a lot. Yeah, I guess, remember kids, if you catch the plague, share it.